It's midwinter 2024, and my wife is stuck at work in our 2006 Subaru Impreza. It starts and runs normally, and the stick shift moves, but the dashboard always indicates P no matter what gear the stick shift is in. The car won't go forward or backward.
Help!
Job 1. We've got to rescue the wife and recover the car. Get it back here where I can work on it in my own driveway. So here's some of the tools that I brought with me. Brought a multimeter, a good one for testing continuity and fuses. Brought some spare fuses. Here's some spare brake light bulbs. Trouble light. Brought my Haynes Subaru manual. Brought some ATF fluid. Here's a funnel if I needed it for pouring in that fluid. Some WD-40, you never know. Somewhere in here we have a new brake light switch, also known as a stoplight switch. Stopped by the auto parts store and picked that up on my way to the rescue. Remember, this rescue took place at night, so we have also a headlight, wearable headlight. This is pretty important. Two 14mm wrenches for installing the stoplight switch. And of course a pad and pen, so that in the event this code reader finds any diagnostic trouble codes, we can write them down. Now, I was fully expecting that this switch was going to be the problem. And it mounts to a bracket. So there's two nuts down there now, so we're going to end up with a third nut. And the bracket's in the middle, then you just tighten the two nuts together. That's why you need the two wrenches. And you adjust this so that the little plunger goes in and out when you step on the brake pedal. So I'm prepared to go up there in the cold, in the wet, in the dark, to rescue my damsel in distress and to try to recover this car and get it home where I can work on it in my own driveway. That's the plan anyways. Let's see how that worked out. It was not the brake light switch. When I got there, I started the car, brake lights came on fine. Put the new switch in anyways, brake lights still came on fine, car would still not shift out of park. $50 gamble that did not pay off. Next, I reached for the scan tool. I ran the Subaru OEM enhanced tests. No OEM enhanced DTCs are presently stored in the vehicle's computer. I ran the global OBD2 tests. No powertrain DTCs or freeze frame data is presently stored in the vehicle's computer. I ran an all-module scan. Engine, 0 DTCs. Transmission, 0 DTCs. Brake system, 0 DTCs. The car won't move, but the computer is telling me that there's nothing wrong with it. Then why won't it shift? Could the ATF be low? It hasn't been leaking in the driveway. There is no puddle under the car now. I decide to check the level anyway. It's full. The oil is clean. At this point, I don't know what else to do. So, I ask the divine for help, and almost instantly, my eyes are drawn down and to the left. I see the shift lever on the side of the transmission. I can reach it with my left hand. Thank you, God. Now I know what to do. With the driver in the car, I'll try shifting the transmission from here. I memorize the shift order. It's park, reverse, neutral, drive. It should only take 3 clicks counterclockwise to get the car in gear. So here's the procedure. Driver pulls the park brake. Starts the car. Rolls down the windows. Keeps his foot on the brake. Keeps his eye on the dash. Yells out when that indicator moves from park through reverse, through neutral, and ends up in drive. So he's going to be watching that. Neutral! Yells that out. Hopefully the guy who's shifting the transmission manually can hear. Remember, that person's going to have their ear right on top of the engine, so you're going to have to scream pretty loud. Drive. Once you get it in drive, you're ready to go. Guy can close the hood. You can release the park brake, take your foot off the brake, and take off. And now you can drive home. The only thing you're going to have to watch is you don't want to get in any situation where you'll have to back up, because you won't be able to shift the car. And obviously you don't want to shut off the car until you get home, because you won't be able to start it if you shut it off in drive. So that's the procedure. All right, let's go over it again. Driver sets in the car. Pulls the park brake. Rolls down these 2 windows. Well, we're already have them rolled down. Driver sets foot on brake and keeps it there. starts the car. So you keep your eye on that indicator. Yellow, reverse. Neutral. Drive. You're ready to take the car home. You can release the park brake. The guy can close the hood, roll up the windows, and drive home. Now remember, you're not going to be able to back up, so don't get yourself in any situation where you might have to back up. And don't turn off the car and drive, because if you do, you won't be able to restart it again until you go through this whole procedure. So just keep it in drive, keep plenty of distance between you and the cars ahead. You don't want to have to back up. You should be okay. She makes it home without incident. It's the next day, the weather's cooperating. Now let's see if we can fix it. In order to diagnose the problem, it helps to understand how it works. So we get power from the battery, comes to this fuse box which is behind an ashtray that would normally sit here, and we need a chart. So you can print this chart on the internet, and it says that the stoplight switch, here it's marked brake light, position 16 20 amp fuse. We go up to the diagram, and 16 is the middle fuse, bottom row. Oh, there it is, 20 amp fuse. Oh, it is marked position 16 right down here. It's this one. So you could, power comes here to this fuse. Next, it goes to the brake light switch, which is under here, and right on top of the brake pedal. Here's the brake pedal. Way up in here, right there. There's a black plunger that moves in and out when you step on the brake pedal. So right now, the circuit would be closed, and when you're not stepping on the brake pedal, the circuit is open. But you step on the brake pedal, the switch closes, and it sends power from there through this connector. And then from this connector, which is normally under this clip, it sends power to the shift lock or interlock solenoid, which is right here. Now, when you're stepping on the brake and power's coming all the way through, this is a deadbolt. So right now, the mechanism, the shift mechanism, is locked. You can't shift it. When you step on the brake, this deadbolt is going to go in. It's going to go that way quickly, and that's going to release the lock. So let me turn on the car and we'll see how that works. Okay, now I'm going to step on the brake. See, it goes in. I release the brake, pops back out. Here, let's try it again. So when that goes in, the lock mechanism is released, and I can actually shift the car. See? Alright, so those are your 4 things. And I'm saying 4 because the discussions I read do not talk about this. And this switch tends to fall right apart. I've only got one hand on it now because I'm holding the camera, but you can just pull this connector right out. It doesn't really lock in there. Most automotive switches are a bear to disconnect. You got to press tabs and so on, and this one just falls apart. And I'm thinking, I know when I put this back together, I put all the covers back on, you put the wrong pressure on this, it disconnects all by itself. So if there's no power because you've disconnected this, that solenoid can't retract, you can't shift. Now here's another little secret when you're having this problem. Lots of people complain that they can't get the key out of the ignition. That's this switch right here. There's a little micro switch here. And so that's the micro switch, and there's a little metal handle, and the shift lever pushes against that metal handle and closes the switch. If that switch is not closed and connected through this connector, you cannot get the key out of that ignition. So that's the switch that allows you to get the key out of the ignition. Should come in handy while you're troubleshooting this problem. Now, you're going to see a lot of videos where they tell you if you can't shift out of park, so when this is down here, there's this little cover over this slot. They'll tell you to pop that cover, and then you stick something down this hole, a screwdriver, a key, a nail file, and that manually releases the shift lock solenoid. So if the solenoid is broken or if it's not working, you can manually work the mechanism. So I'm going to just work it right here. See, I can press down here. And when you're pressing here, there was a white button here. I think that was part of my problem, and I don't have it installed at the moment. That button just presses on this copper spring. Copper suggests that this might be electrical. It's not electrical. That's just a copper spring that does the same thing as I'm doing here. You press down on the mechanism and you're forcing a solenoid to go in. So I'm discovering two problems here. There was a problem with this button. It was already broken. And that tells me that somebody, before we got the car, somebody had this problem and broke that button. And the problem I was having is the button was not returning to rest. So it was, I think, jamming this mechanism. Now, let me show you what that button looks like. It's this. So once this got shoved down, it didn't want to pop back up. It kind of like jammed halfway. And even though the car is fixed right now, when I started to put this back together, I couldn't shift it again. And I notice how sticky this is. So I'm not sure. I think the plastic is deteriorating. I'm leaving it out. Now, the next thing. I actually had this shift solenoid out of the car because the plunger was very sticky. So see, now, when you activate it, it comes right back out. Initially, though, it didn't do that. It was very slow to come out. It would kind of jam and then finally come out, and it was sticky, really sticky. But you can take it out of here. You twist the plunger just like a quarter turn, the plunger comes right out, and you can see and feel how sticky it is. So I just wiped it down with WD-40, and with a Q-tip I wiped down the cavity. There's also a spring here, we don't want to lose that. So now it retracts, and see how fast it comes right back out again. Now the other thing that is wrong, there was white grease all along this mechanism. And that white grease on this mechanism that I'm pressing with my finger, I've cleaned it all off now. It was very hard and sticky. That was also contributing to this problem. So see, before, this would kind of come this way and then a little bit more and then maybe a little bit more. It just wasn't working right. So now I kind of have a release. The grease was a big problem here. Stickiness inside this shift lock solenoid was a big problem. So I've cleaned that as best as possible. If you were stuck on the road, you could still depress that piece of copper with a pencil or what have you, and that would still override and press down on this yellow part and activate the solenoid. I'm sticky grease here, sticky plunger here, sticky button here, switch that's falling apart. I think all of these things contributed to the problem. Now, while we're in here, and before I forget, the shift console was not lighting up. And if you look, I'm not sure you can see this bulb. The lens is blackened. But it still actually does light up. The reason it wasn't lighting up is it wasn't in its holder. It was just laying down in here, and so that already tells me that somebody else had a problem in here and never put the bulb back, so it was not illuminating the shift positions. Right now I might replace this bulb because it is blackened, and the bulb number, not in any Subaru manual that I found, but that bulb is marked number 74. So I bought these and they appear to be exactly the right bulb. So if your console here is not lighting up, you can't see these park, reverse, neutral, drive, 3, 2, 1 at night, then either your bulb is not back in place or you need a new bulb, and this is what it is, number 74. Okay, now under what circumstances would any of these culprits be causing your problem? Well, I can't imagine that fuse would blow unless you had been in an accident and the bulb, these are your brake and tail light bulbs for this car. Number 7443, Sylvania's. These are the OEM bulbs. I just can't imagine. This is a dual filament incandescent bulb. In all of my experience, incandescent bulbs just open up, the filament burns out, it opens. It doesn't blow the fuse. Yet, when you go online, there's countless people. It was the fuse. They never tell you which fuse. It was the bulb. They never tell you what bulb. But it can't possibly be an OEM bulb like this. But what if these OEM bulbs were replaced with LED bulbs? Well, we know that LED bulbs can fail in two ways. Okay, here's an LED bulb that I bought actually for my Volkswagens. That's before I had time to think about this. So those are the little, right there, the yellow, the yellow suns that you see are the LEDs. You can see 4 on that side, 4 more on this side. Now any one of those LEDs could fail short circuit. When it fails short circuit, that yellow sun will be blown up and blackened, almost like a solar eclipse, and there'll be ashes and smoke all around that white stem that it's soldered to. And in that case, it would try to draw all of the amperage of the battery it would try to draw it through the tiny wire that this is connected to. And of course that would overload the current carrying capacity of the wire, and we would have a fire. And so that fuse is designed to explode and blow out before you have a car fire. It's there to prevent a fire. So if that fuse is blown and you weren't in an accident, then that must be because you have a car with LED bulbs, or your older car had the original bulbs replaced with LED bulbs. Now in that case, how would you troubleshoot this problem? Well, you'd have to go back here. We got one brake light here, one brake light here, one brake light here. If these had all been replaced with LED bulbs, we'd have to take everything apart. We'd have to take that one apart. We'd have to take this one apart. I don't know that people replaced the one that's up high here. We'd have to take the one on the tailgate apart, because you wouldn't know which it was that was causing the problem. And having thought this through, I don't think I'm going to be replacing any of my stock brake light bulbs with LED bulbs. But okay, we don't have a blown fuse. What about the brake light switch? Well, a lot of people saying it's the brake light switch, but they never tell you what the part number is. Well, here it is on this car. SLS 186. This is an aftermarket part. $50 gamble. If you're going to try to rescue one of these cars stuck on the road, you might want to go with a 20 amp fuse. Might want to go with one of these. Now, why do I think that this is a good bet? Didn't work for me, but why do I think this is a good bet? Because I've been driving, over 60 years. Got my license the day I turned 16, many decades ago. And in all the cars I've owned, I've actually replaced about a half a dozen brake light switches. My red Jetta, that's often shown on this channel, is on its 4th or 5th brake light switch. So manufacturers have problems with brake light switches. And apparently Subaru's got their share of problems as well. This is actually the original switch that was in the car. I didn't need it, but I had already bought it, so I stuck the new one in anyways, just because there's so many commenters saying, it's this, it's this. Well, it isn't. And I'm just going to say this. If your brake lights come on when you step on that brake light pedal, it's not the brake light switch. It's not the brake light switch. It's sending power both to the brake lights and to this shift lock solenoid. But if your brake lights are coming on, it's highly unlikely that there's anything wrong with this switch. So I would dismiss it. So again, if you got brake lights, it's not that fuse, it's not your bulbs, brake light bulbs, and it's not this. Your problem is either going to be way down here in this console. You're either going to have a sticky shift interlock solenoid, gummed up plastic locking mechanism, loose connector. I found all three of these things. Additionally, because we were having so much trouble shifting the car, even after I addressed all of these things, that didn't fix it. Because what's left? If you've got power here, everything is working. Obviously, if this is connected, you've got power. And it wouldn't work if that was disconnected. What's left? Well, it would be the cable between here and the transmission. Let's get the car on the lift and find out.
Take a gander. Right there, bro.
Now, why didn't I see that when I looked under the car in my driveway? Because the brake was hidden by this rubber boot.
No, it's not. The pin comes out here. We replace the cable there. You can see it goes, follows the path right here to the transmission.
Okay.
Not a big deal. Now we just order the pot and do this again tomorrow. Oh, hey, here we go. Success. The old rotted pieces out. If you can see, you got light on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so that's done. Now, you can see where the cable is mounted there on the bracket. Now, let's see if we can get those bolts free next. And base of that size is a 12. Yes, that came free. All right, let me get these two off here. If it didn't come off, if these bolts didn't want to come off, and this didn't want to come off, my best recommendation would be to get a Sawzall and cut this cable off totally. Then you can go upstairs, take the console off, remove this whole unit, work at it on the bench, put a little bit of heat with a torch if you need to. You don't want to use a torch on a car because then you may end up buying a new car after you get the money from the fire insurance because you burned it to the ground.
So that's why you put the penetrating oil on it?
Yes. Actually, we got lucky with these getting loose. Usually they don't, and usually you have to do like I said, cut the cable with the Sawzall, go the harder route, take the console apart, pull the shifter out. I know it's tempting to use a torch, but it only takes a split second to catch a car on fire. And usually the easier way is not the better way. All right, let's see if this comes up. Yeah, we got the, see, that cable's off there. Now we're gonna move over to the transmission. We're going to have to take these two bolts off here. See, this bracket attaches the cable to the bigger bracket. Can't get a wrench for that 12 there, so we'll take the whole bracket off the car and then take the little clip off the lever for the tranny, remount the cable to the bracket, re-bolt the bracket back to the vehicle, and then we'll go back to the shifter. Okay, that's kind of loose too. That's good. That came apart easy. And that's a 14. You're only gonna have to use a wrench in there and wrench it because you can't fit a socket or a ratchet in there. Oh, yeah. All right. This is all nice and loose. Now we just gotta take that little off the lever to the. Go. Cable is off. Okay, broken cable, new cable. Gonna change this bracket over to there. Let's see. This is gonna come apart. That's why they need a vise. Why does one come loose so easy and the other one so tough? There we go. There's flat spots, you line it up to there. Basically, just pack. Back of the vise so we can suck it down. Good. Just like that. We put the bolt back in here because when it's on the transmission, there's not enough room to put it in. So you got to put the bolt on first. Now take the little end of the new cable, slide it right on the little stud. There's a little hole we got to find to pop it back in place. Problem is not finding the hole, so I'm just finding a pathway to get your hand in there. There we go. There we go, locks right in place. When you're taking that snap clip off, try not to distort it, because the less you distort it, the harder it's going to be to put back in place. We got that all together, as you can see. Clip. Bolts we dealt with right there. I'm going to go back here. All right. Take the extra bolt off the cable. Some slack in it. We need to go upstairs. Yeah, we need to move that shifter that way because it's basically the train is in park and this is in drive, and we need to get them both in park so we can adjust it and put that lever on properly. So we put the shifter in park. So we should be able to go down there and adjust the lever on the transmission to park. And then adjust the Alright, where is that now? Neutral. Neutral, yeah. We got the transmission itself in neutral, and how we know that is by having the ignition on. It has that little indicator on the dash that goes park, reverse, neutral, drive. So we moved the lever here, went up top, seen it was in neutral, then looked at the shifter between the console, made sure that was in neutral. Now we will adjust the two couplings on the cable and make them tight, and that should be it for today. Looks like that should be it. So we'll sock it down. We'll go a little beyond ourselves and getting a little cocky. Make sure it is tight. This tight. Double check everything, and we'll go upstairs and move it around and see if the shifter changes. If it doesn't change, then we'll come down and tighten it up for you. Okay. Park. Neutral. We're all set. Now we'll just tighten it up so it doesn't loosen up. Now that we know it's set properly. That ain't going anywhere. And just for good luck, we'll put some never-sees on those threads in case we got to take this apart 3, 4, 5 years from now. Double check our clip in the front and make sure it didn't pop loose. Nope. And one more car fixed. And that's it.
So what do you think happened to this old cable? Was there supposed to be a loom over that?
No, it broke. The cable itself, which is a bunch of windings, as we all know, went into this piece of metal, and then they crimped it. See how it looks crimped? See on an angle, you can see it's crimped. Well, the machine crimped it, and maybe when it crimped it.
So did it actually break, or did it pull out of the crimp?
No, it broke. It broke right at the end. It didn't pull out, because you can still see the cable there. Mm-hmm. You still see the cable there. So it just broke on the crimp. And it doesn't bind there. If anything, it binds over here because it makes a corner. There's no binding there.
That's crazy, though.
And the rubber did seem like it was intact. I mean, there was a couple of holes. It was hard to tell. We ripped it apart to see what was wrong with it. But
so she drove to work, no problems, parked the car, came out of work, stuck.
That's usually the way things are. It works one day, and it don't work the next.
What's the part number on this 2006?
That was the cable.
Let me see if I can get that. I'll zoom in. There you go.
That was the cable.
Yeah.
Then this was the bolt that went at the end of it, at the end of the turnbuckle to adjust it.
So those are the two parts.
Those are the 2 parts you need. Yes. Mm-hmm. You'll never save the bolt because we tried to do it and it snapped off. Broken.
What a great job. And there's no way I could have done any of that in my driveway. So thank you, Keith Branco. Now, if you'd like to see more from Westport Auto Clinic, leave Keith a comment and I'll be sure to pass it along. Now, regarding disassembly and reassembly, here's the cover that goes over the solenoid. It just clips in and pushes in with that push pin. The next thing is going to be to get this big console back on. Let's start with that. There's going to be 1 screw here under the park brake and 2 back here that are going to go into these holes, which you don't see until you open up this little compartment. This here, this is the light bulb that's supposed to illuminate the shift positions, and you can see that it wanted to get caught down there, which is where it was before. So we don't want to make that same mistake. We know it's there, we want it accessible. We don't want to block this is the cigarette lighter, 12-volt connector. I want to keep that up. Alright, looks like we've got it. Just have to tap these sides in. Just tap them in with my hand. See that the prongs are caught. These screw holes right here are lining up. This one's lining up. The two back here, this is where I'm going to start. Those are lining up. It has some wiggle, so we'll get those caught. Okay, next comes this piece. We got two screws at the top. I'm going to catch there and there. We have two screws at the back, which are going to catch here. We've got to get the park brake lever through its boot. There's a nice snap here. It comes apart, allowing it to go together. So I'm going to work on that. Now, I want to mention, there were 9 screws holding all this together. I used the 5 longer ones on the bottom piece, so we'll assume that the 4 shorter ones are going to go on this top piece. Alright, so let me work on that. Okay, for what it's worth, this snapped together pretty easy. There's some locator pins here on the top. It just pushed down and snapped in. This has a little pin that's got to snap in here too. It goes straight down and the holes all line up. So far so good. Boot went right on. We can snap it tight later. Okay, let me get those screws in. So this piece looks like it's strictly a snap-in. I have a snap there, snap in the back, another snap here, a couple of snaps in connections anywhere here in the front. I guess we'll get the cigarette lighter socket connected and see how we make out. Okay, so I'm out of sequence there. Next, this has to go in. And we want to get that bulb locked into this socket right here. And then that piece goes on top of it. Okay, I've got this clicked in. Now I'm very curious to know if this is going to light up for the first time since we got the car. Start her up. Turn on the lights. On. Off. First time that is lit up since we got the car. Okay, I have it all back together and I made a mistake. There should be a piece of black cloth that protects dust from falling down in there. Must be in the trunk and I forgot to bring it out. But this is going to have to come off, and that's going to have to come off again to put that piece on that I forgot. So let's see if I can find it and take this apart again. So don't make that mistake that I made. Okay, I've got the bulb in its socket. This just snaps in like that. I've already got the cigarette lighter plug connected. This kind of goes up in here. And that just snaps in. Got the coin tray. All right. Next is this override button. Get it out of the package, put that in place. So this little tab, the last thing I put in, this little cover, only goes in one way. The screwdriver slot has to be facing the passenger door. It can't be facing the middle or it doesn't snap down correctly. Alright, let's give it a try. Final test now, everything's back together. We have our dust shield on. It shifts, park, reverse, neutral, drive, third, second, first, goes through all the gears. We're all set. Repairs cost about $400, including what I paid for shifter bulbs and for a new brake light switch, something the car actually didn't need. But compared to the $900 to $1,200 others say they paid to have this same problem fixed at their Subaru dealerships, I'd say we did pretty good. The 06 Impreza is shifting like a new car again, for less than a single new car payment. Well worth it, in my opinion. So, I hope this video helps someone. If it does, please like, share, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.